It is a weekday evening here in our home, and I'm here to share with you the resources and the books that we've been reading about the country of Haiti. I'm Julia, and welcome to my channel, Freestyling It, at Sharing the Discovery Homeschool. First book that I'll just highlight that we pulled out was Haiti, Enchantment of the World. This book is a great resource if you're looking for a pictorial overview of the history of Haiti, of the landscape of Haiti, the economy of Haiti. There are so many different categories in this book as to the information in here. This book I found to be helpful not in that we were reading, but that we kind of browsed through. We looked at the pictures together. My children asked questions about different pictures. I would scan, like this picture caught their attention, which is actually, apparently there were pirates who used to have a little hideout there on one of the islands. So I skimmed this portion silently, and then I kind of reiterated for them what I had read. Reading about the country of Haiti was different from other topics that we've considered. Similar almost actually to the Underground Railroad, where it was a bit heavier, not something that we wanted to immerse ourselves in all at once. However, there was a richness to the books that was really delightful, but they often had more content. They weren't just cutesy little stories that you could kind of devour a couple at a time. They were had fuller content, fuller stories, way more detail than might be found in other picture books, and are dealing with some themes that may not be found in other picture books. So for instance, one topic that we came across a lot in the picture books is the idea of hope. Now, if you do even a little bit of research on Haiti, you come to find that it is a country that is not well off. There is a lot of lack and unfortunate disasters that have happened over the years, which has caused continuing lack. And so hope was a theme that came up in several of our stories. The first one I'll share with you is this story called Selavi, a Haitian story of hope, which is actually about a little boy who was left homeless and familyless for several reasons, and he found a street gang of children, and they lived together. They were vulnerable, and as the story goes on, he came into a church and he was able to find a refuge there with the people. They offered him help, and he said, I don't just need help for me, I need help for the larger community of my brothers and sisters on the street. And so they were able to make a home for them, and as the story goes, unfortunately the home was destroyed, and so they needed to band together again and build up a home for themselves. This is based on a true happening, a true place, a true home of children. As you can see from looking through this book, it is not a light story. It's a hopeful story, and it's an engaging story, and it makes us ask questions, and it makes us develop an empathy towards children who are caught in these situations. But it's not necessarily easy. It's a story that takes time to digest. Along the lines of hope, there's this book, Circles of Hope. Really neat story about a little boy who wanted to plant a tree. He wanted to follow in his father's example of his father planted a tree when he was born. And so he wanted to plant a tree when his sister was born. It shows his attempts were not always successful in planting the tree, there is a measure of perseverance that was demonstrated in his efforts to plant a tree for his baby sister. There was also the element of ingenuity on the little boy's part, in that he had to think up a number of different solutions and seek out answers for why his seedling didn't thrive. How could he do it differently in order to ensure that his baby sister's tree would grow up strong? And this is just a wonderful story of a little boy caring for his sister, and in the end learning valuable lessons of how to nourish life, to thrive even in a difficult situation. Hope for Haiti, another great selection. This follows a little boy after a earthquake. It talks about how they set up camp in a soccer field. Soccer ends up bringing them together. I think soccer is something that's kind of unifying in a lot of different senses. It's international, right? It's universal. So it's something that my kids knew about and could relate to a little bit in that sense. And then develop the empathy for a young boy who was in a situation that they had never encountered. This book, Painted Dreams, is also kind of along the lines of hopefulness. So the second theme that I would say came up repeatedly in our study of Haiti this week is that of contributing to the family or contributing to the community. And so along with hope, that would be the second theme. Painted Dreams was no exception. The little girl uses her painting skills to the benefit of her family. She sees that her mother is not getting noticed in the marketplace enough to sell what she brings to the market. And so she ends up sneaking off and painting a mural on the wall behind their market spot, and ends up attracting the attention and the customers needed to benefit the family's business. Mama Rocks, Papa Sings is another great example of community. This story follows a family, a dad, a mom, and their little girl, and they are joined by other members of the community, other children in the community who need care. And these children are received into the home and cared for a short time, and for different reasons. This is just really a neat story about hospitality, largely, about the ability to care for other people, even if they're not our family. And then it ends with a celebration as a community. This I just found to be such a neat and uplifting book, knowing that Haiti is such a place of need. This really offered a neat viewpoint into their country. It also gave some words in Creole. Running the Road to ABC is a bit more like a poem than a story, and if it had been longer, I think my children would have lost interest. Even as it was, my daughter had wandered off, and my son stuck with it. He was listening. The reason why my son was able to stay engaged is that I used a lot of expression in my voice when I was reading. I think the pictures provided interest as well on a large level. And this is the following of a group of school children who run before the sun comes up in order to reach their school in time. This did provide an interesting conversation for how people live in a culture and a place where clocks are not the norm, where you don't use a timepiece in order to tell you what time it is, but you use the sun. All right, we're getting down in the stack. I've got 4 more Haitian books to share with you, and then one other tag-along book that I'd like to pop in here and kind of review. And the rest of these books are really kind of like all my favorite of what we've read. This first one is called Tap Tap. And we found out that there are very brightly colored buses in Haiti, and they're called tap taps because when you need to get off at a stop, you tap tap the side of the wherever you can tap on it, and the driver knows to stop and let you off. This is the story following a little girl who goes to market, and she's helping her mom. Again, it's the community element of contributing. Her mom says they don't have the money to pay for the tap tap on the way to the market, and the little girl decides to use her earnings to pay for a tap tap on the way home. And just a fun story of her experience on the tap tap, how loaded up it gets. I mean, my goodness, if this isn't a picture into another culture, another whole living experience, I don't know what is. All of the things that come into the tap tap all at once. It just makes me laugh. I remember being in South Africa at different times and seeing people riding in vehicles or all together in the back of a truck. I rode on a filled bus at one point as well, and just the amazement that comes, over my Western sensibilities, that first of all, such a vehicle even runs, and second of all, that this is normal for them to crowd all together and to live life this way. This book was a super fun story. This is called Please Malese, and this is a trickster tale from Haiti. My kids wanted me to read it again. They were laughing out loud at certain parts and just like marveling that someone could be so tricky and get away with it. I would recommend this book highly. This is just a really fun story with some great illustrations and just some clever characters. Or a clever character, I should say. Freedom Soup is a story that's actually set in the US, but the little girl's grandmother was born in Haiti and grew up in Haiti, and so she tells the story of her experience to the little girl. And it's not just her experience, but it's the experience of her people in Haiti. And there is slavery involved, and then the throwing off of slavery, where her people actually fight for slavery to be abolished in the country of Haiti. Which, if you look back in my channel, you'll see that we have been looking at slavery in the US recently, and so it's interesting to have this tie-in that even from another country that there was slavery imposed upon natives there. And then just a neat story of how they celebrate freedom with a freedom soup that they make together and they share together. And this is a soup that they make every New Year's. And because we're coming up close to the new year here, we decided that we're going to make this freedom soup probably on New Year's Eve, kind of as a closure to our Haiti studies and to participate a little bit in their celebration of their freedom. So the recipe is in the back of the book here, and it's a lot of ingredients, so we're going to be going shopping here and picking up all those things so that we can make freedom soup together. The last book about Haiti that we read together is called My Day with the Beignet. I think that's how it's pronounced. That's at least how I read it to the kids. Now, the theme in this book is the little girl wanting to carry the beignet and asking her mom to multiple times, and her mom's response is so great. In time, you will get there in time. And the little girl asks again, the reason for the little girl wanting so much to carry the pannier is that she knows that that's one way to contribute to the community. That's the second theme that we've seen strewn, and in a number of these different stories, is the desire to contribute to the community. This is a theme that I find can be lacking in our Western culture. And that ties into a book that I read recently that actually came out recently. And I just kind of wanted to provide a review on it as a closure to this Haitian video. Now, this wasn't connected in, like, I didn't plan this connection. Literally, I had finished the book and then we started diving into Haiti. I'm like, hey, the same things I was reading about in this book are present in some of these stories. And that just made it come really alive for me. So here's the book, Hunt, Gather, Parent. What ancient cultures can teach us about the lost art of raising happy, helpful little humans. I gleaned so much insight from this book. Children are born with an innate sense of wanting to be helpful, wanting to have their, have a try at whatever you're doing, whatever task you're doing. This can be aggravating to the parent, but this is our Western culture speaking. It's aggravating because we want to do things efficiently, we want to do things tidily, we want to do things on our time frame, right? We in the Western culture have a time frame for everything. It was really beautifully illustrated in this book as to how parents actually allow their children at different times when a task is safe and important to community life, how they actually allow their children to come and take over from what they're doing. That actually pleases parents. They say they want to contribute to the family. They want to help. This story, My Day with the Pannier, illustrates what the author here has documented in Hunt, Gather, Parent, as to how moms interact with their children who ask to do things. Children's helpfulness does not always compute to actual helpfulness. However, the vision and the goal in mind for the parents that this author documented, the vision that the parents had in allowing their children to participate in these tasks, is the fact that they are building on the foundation of having helpful children, and that actually allowing them to participate even as young ones will cause them to continue to want to participate, to continue to want to build upon that responsibility. As much as I am able, as much as is safe, I want to delegate tasks to them, and not just delegate, but I want to respond to their initiatives to be helpful. One way that I've said yes to my children in them asking to do certain things is in laundry. My son is right now rotating between these two shirts that are right now his favorite, and he wears either one or the other of them almost every day. And that means that when they're both dirty, he has no shirts that he considers acceptable for him to wear, even though he has a whole drawer full of shirts upstairs. So he's asked me, he said, "Hey Mom, can I put these in the load, in a load of washing so I can have them ready for tomorrow?" And normally I would have said, "You have a whole drawer full of shirts upstairs. Why are you not wearing those shirts? Why? They're lovely shirts." And instead, I just said, "Hey Judah, if you can gather a big enough load to fill the washer, just go up to each of the laundry baskets and you gather that stuff. Sure, you can wash those clothes." He took it right in hand. He got the clothes, he's washed the laundry, and he put it all in the dryer when it came out of the wash. This is one area that I feel like, yes, this concept works. This has happened in other areas as well. Probably an obvious one is pouring their milk or dishing things up for themselves. I will stand by, obviously, if there's certain things that I do not want to be spilled all over the place, and I will try my best to avoid those spills. However, spills happen, and it's part of how we learn. It's evident to my children that this mess wasn't the desired result. So I don't even say anything about that. I usually just say, well, let's get this cleaned up. And they jump right in. If there is no like shame or anger, entwined with the fact that they have accidentally made a mess, they are so eager to actually help clean it up. And a number of different times when they have gotten something out, like whether it's the juice or the milk, and they are pouring themselves a glass of something and they make a mess, they are hopping right to cleaning that up. I kind of find myself amazed at that result, where if I'm able to help them participate with cleaning up their own messes, they are much more eager to be jumping in and cleaning up their own messes when they happen as well. And it doesn't have to be an angering thing. It's just a thing of life. When the kids have asked to sweep and I've just pulled out the broom and I'm like, okay, I was going to sweep, they are going to do an imperfect job at this point. But the fact that they expressed interest, and the fact that I can acknowledge their interest and allow them to act on that interest in a way that's beneficial to the community, will enable them to continue to want to ask, to continue to want to contribute. And I'm excited about this. I'm really excited about this way of working together with my children. It feels so natural to me to be working with them, partnering with them partnering with me in the ways that I'm contributing to the community, whether it be through cooking, cleaning, laundry, dishes, whatever it may be. Yes, it doesn't always look helpful. If I can see past the fact that they obviously don't have the skills necessary to do the job well, if I can have patience with the messes that will crop up because of it, then we will all have learned a beneficial lesson of being able to depend on one another. So there is a lot of food for thought in this, a lot to learn from, a lot to mull over. In closing, my review for this book is read it. Read it, read it, read it. Glean from it, learn from it, let it inform your day-to-day life with your children. I want to say thanks for joining me today on my channel, and I hope that you'll check back again.
Make